McLaren Speedtail here for you today by Hot Wheels. Now there's a lot to this car that does not immediately meet the eye, and Hot Wheels has done a really good job of replicating it. A lot better than you might imagine. Now this particular car that you're looking at is the premium version. So there's a mainline version out there, and this is the premium version with the rubber wheels on it, and it's got a lot of stuff on it. I'm very interested as to whether the premium version is better than the mainline version. I'm thinking they're probably very much the same car. Let me read you what they say about it from Fandom here. The McLaren Speedtail is a high-performance three-seat sports car designed by McLaren with a team led by Rob Melville and Steve, I think that's Cripps or Krenz. It is a spiritual successor to the now legendary McLaren F1. The Speedtail is McLaren's fastest car yet, said to achieve speeds over 250 miles per hour, that's 402 kilometers per hour. As with the McLaren F1, the driver sits in the middle. Only 106 Speedtails will be produced, paying further homage to the McLaren F1. And then from the back of the 2020 card, when this car came out in Hot Wheels, born 2019, Surrey, England, designer McLaren Automotive. The highly advanced Speedtail is a teardrop-shaped hybrid hypercar that pairs a twin-turbo 4-liter V8 with an electric motor to produce 1,035 horsepower and a top speed of 250 miles per hour. The car has a 3-seat cockpit layout similar to the original McLaren F1, where the driver sits in the center, which provides maximum visibility. Now, this McLaren Speedtail for Hot Wheels debuted in the series Hot Wheel Exotics. It's been produced from 2020 up until the present. The designer was Rue Asada, and the original SKU is GHB53. Now, I'm looking at the versions on Fandom out there, and there's 7 different versions already produced. So that's 7 versions in what, 3 years, 3.5 years? So that's like a version every 5 months. So Hot Wheels really likes this car a lot, and I'm sure McLaren is really happy to let them reproduce it in this 1/64th scale. So let's take a look at the car and talk about it a little bit. Okay, let's talk about the theme on this car. McLaren produced multiple themes for the car. And by theme, I mean they had an exterior color and an interior color that worked with each other to produce an overall theme. So I believe, based upon, I'm looking at this car, I believe on Road and Track, and I believe this is the Bloodline theme. I'm not certain about that, but it looks to me like the Bloodline theme. So interesting. It's got that red, rusty blood color, and it looks really nice, this particular theme that Hot Wheels picked up on. Now let's start looking at the side of the car from the left going to the right, and we'll talk about it a little bit. First of all, you see that rear diffuser back there in black. Comes all the way up to the rear end of the car where the car comes off to a point. That's really cool. I don't think I've ever seen that in a car, a diffuser that goes that high up. I'm sure it's done for aerodynamic purposes, but why wouldn't you see race cars like that? Very odd way that is built. Now, I did watch I think it was it Jay Leno or was it Doug DeMuro talk about this particular car? I think it was Doug DeMuro. The tail of this car, you can barely see it there. The little teeny tiny ducktail. That ducktail actually moves. It forms around. I'm sure it's just got a rear spoiler tail in the back that moves up and down, but it has like probably rubber on top of that to form one coherent surface. So when you put the spoiler up or the speed reaches a certain speed, the spoiler comes up and it deforms the entire rear of that car right there and makes the ducktail either higher or lower depending upon the needs of the car at that point in time. Then coming on across, you can see the 10-spoke wheels there, very nice looking. I'm sure those are magnesium wheels. Then coming on across once again, you've got the door handle area there with the vent in that particular area. You can see it there a little bit. Now, you can see a little bit of the window shading there, and I'll get into this a little bit more later on when we turn this car on its side and look at it from the top-down view. But there are multiple areas that are controlled electronically, and you can control the shading of this car, which is very interesting. The real car, obviously not the Hot Wheels car. Now, coming on across, right in front of the door is a camera, and you can see the little cutout there. That represents the camera on the real car. This car doesn't have wing mirrors. In real life, it doesn't have door mirrors at all. It has a little camera that pops out when you're at speed. And then on the interior, you have two little small LED screens that show you, one on the left of the dash and one on the right of the dash, that show you what is to the side of the car. And as well, there is the turn signals on those little pop-outs that have the cameras on them. It's a really cool system. Once again, you really need to watch Doug DeMuro's video on this particular car. We're just reviewing the Hot Wheels car here today, but Doug DeMuro goes into the car very well, and it's very interesting view of the car. Coming on up, we've got those Aero wheels. Now, I don't know what they're called either in the McLaren world or in the Hot Wheel world, but Hot Wheels was not able to fully duplicate those Aero wheels because on the real car, the Aero wheels have kind of a cutout at the rear, and I assume it's probably carbon fiber, maybe plastic. This cover that goes over the wheel, it stays in place. It doesn't move as the wheel turns. So it gives you aero there, keeps air from coming inside that particular wheel and causing a disturbance in the air. It makes sense. If you want to make a fast car, you want to make it as aerodynamic as possible. And apparently they thought that the front wheels were the particular problem on this car, because obviously they got the big magnesium wheels on the back that do not have those aero covers. But once again, Hot Wheels was not able to duplicate that. They did a good job, but they just weren't able to duplicate the full experience of the real car. All right, let's come on around and talk about the front. Starting on the roof at the front here, you can see the T-top design on this car. Then coming back forwards toward the front of the car, you can see that dimming system on the car. You can see the line in the middle of the windshield where it's dimmed and it's not dimmable. Coming on forward, you see there's no windshield wipers modeled on this particular car. Not sure if that's how the real car looks or not, but no windshield wipers on this car. Coming on down to the hood, you've got a frunk right there, a front trunk that it's an opening. Does open on the car. Then you've got the headlights. Now, these are tiny little slits. And based on what I'm looking at on the Hot Wheels car, those tiny little slits do have some silver or gray paint in there. It's some sort of tempo. I'm not sure exactly what it is. And if it's a silver or gray paint in there, someone had to take great care and probably use exactly one hair on a brush to paint that in with, because that is really tight there. Or they just painted the whole car in gray and then came over it with the red there later on and didn't paint that particular portion of it. Got the McLaren emblem logo up front on the car, and then you got a big black air dam splitter in the front. All very apropos for the car. Looks great. The 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 8 o'clock positions on this car don't really show anything different than you've seen from the right side. So I'm just going to leave it as is and let you take a look at it for a moment and then move on to the rear. The rear of the Speedtail is quite interesting as well. Now, I've already described the rear wing and how it deforms underneath that layer of probably rubber and creates the little ducktail. Really cool feature. Now here's another cool feature. If you look in the center of the back window, you will see a red stripe on this car. That's the brake light. And you can see it goes right down the center of that window, and it's really long. One of the longest brake lights you'll ever see in a car. Very, very interesting. Now, it splits a couple of air intakes there for the mid-mounted engine, obviously. And then you come on down and you've got McLaren on the bumper, and you've got Speedtail underneath that. Really cool. And then, of course, right there on each side of the McLaren, you've got your tail lights, your regular tail lights, your brake lights, your backup lights, that sort of thing. Really cool look on this car. Really neat thing about that rear brake light as well, center brake light. And the 4 o'clock position doesn't show anything different from the 8 o'clock position. I'll let you take a look at it here for just a second or two, see if you note anything that I haven't noted. But you can see that rear brake light pretty well from this position. Looks really cool. The top-down view of this car shows what I had alluded to earlier. the electrochromatic dimmers that are in the windows of this car. Now, if you notice, there's gray components to the windows in this car, and then there's almost black components. The black components that are a little rough as well are the electrochromatic dimmers that are in the actual car. And basically what that means is you press a button, and I suppose you press 3 or 4 different buttons for a level of how much dimming you want. But as you press different buttons, you get certain levels of dimming, such as 25% dimming, 50% dimming, 75% dimming, or just completely blacked out. Now, I'm not sure about the completely blacked out. They may not offer that. That may be actually illegal in many states. But you get the idea. You get as much dimming as you want to dial into the system. So this car doesn't have window visors on it. It has this electrochromatic dimming system. And to be honest with you, I wish every car had that system. I would love that in a car. And now to the bottom of the car. Black base, and it feels metal. So nice base on it in black. Doesn't have hardly any modeling on it. There's virtually none. In fact, there is none other than the diffuser and perhaps mufflers back there. That's it. Nothing else. You got all your Hot Wheels logo stuff on there. You've got the name of the car, McLaren Speedtail. You got the SKU, which I think is GHB 53, might be 63. Once again, you got your Hot Wheels swoosh, made in Thailand. Other than that, that's it on this car. Okay, hope you enjoyed the review. It's a nice car, nice one to add to your collection. I got one in my collection now. Don't get behind. Get one for yourself. Hope you enjoy the video. Please like and subscribe. Have a great day.